wake up with regret inside my lungs. I don't wanna wake up with sadness on my tongue. Only got one life to live. I can't let this slip. I don't wanna wake up.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining me again. This is Jasmine. I wanted to talk a little bit this morning, this weekend, Saturday, happy Saturday. You're probably going to be watching this some other day, but anyway, just wanted to share that. I wanted to talk a little bit this morning about something I was discussing with a friend of mine. That this friend will be on the podcast in the future. We've already discussed recording a few episodes just about his healing journey and things, and traumas he's experienced in his life, which is a lot. So, wanted to share about, something that a lot of us are probably going through, and it's family members, seeing family members going through, addictive behaviors, addictions. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be codependency. That's an addiction, obsessive, like compulsive eating behaviors, like something I'm dealing with, is like overeating. Is like a form of an addiction in a way, and also a form of self-protection subconsciously, I believe. So, we often will see either people we know, our friends, or some family members that have some kind of an addiction, right? And you want the best for your family members, but it's very difficult, especially if you live, with those family members, and you have to deal with them on a day-to-day. It's especially difficult when you see them day after day go through these behaviors, and it's toxic. It is hurting them ultimately. It's just an expression of them hurting within, and they are numbing it out with certain toxic behaviors. And again, I speak from experience of dealing with this myself. And I'm working on myself constantly for things like that. But especially if those behaviors affect you eventually in some way, that's when it really kind of hits home, and it really can be difficult to navigate. As much as you love those people, you get lashed out at somehow, whether verbally or in other ways. It affects you and your well-being, or you get however the toxic behavior of that loved one affects you. It does affect you. It's very difficult to remove yourself from the victim mentality of them lashing out at you, and this really kind of goes for anybody if you think about it. It could be a stranger in the store that just decides to project at you their anger issues or whatever they're going through, and you just happen to be there and be the victim. But especially true for those, like I said, you're living with day to day. You got to deal with them. You're living in the same space with them. It could be especially difficult to separate yourself emotionally from those toxic behaviors in that moment, and you kind of need to remove yourself for a little bit to kind of cool off, whatever, walk away, go take a drive, whatever, go do something apart, away from that person's energy. And really, it's like this, you want the best for them, but they have to want it for themselves as well. And at some point, I just feel like somebody needs to know this. Like at some point, you're probably going to be asked to walk away from that person. As difficult as that may be, it doesn't matter what relationship they are to you in your life. You may be called to walk away. And I mean physically, walk away and move. Or remove that person from your environment, whether they move out or you remove yourself. Because they have their own journey, just like we all have our journeys. They have their own journey. They have to choose themselves. They have to choose themselves as the priority. When they want better for themselves, and they want to work on themselves, do the inner healing, do the shadow work. They have to come to that conclusion on their own. There's nothing you can say or do besides remove yourself as a consequence of dealing with that toxic behavior. You have to love yourself first. And that is very hard for a lot of people to do, especially people like me that are in the middle of this healing journey. It's especially difficult if you have an open heart already. You're a very loving, caring person, and you tend to overgive. That's where it's especially difficult to walk away. But ultimately, you have to learn to walk away. You have to learn to love yourself and make yourself the priority and love yourself enough to know that you don't deserve that behavior. You're not responsible for that behavior. That's their responsibility for projecting things on you. But you don't deserve to be in that toxic environment. You don't deserve to put up with certain behaviors. Yes, you may be in a caretaker situation, but again, there's times where you may be asked to walk away. You know, the divine God may be asking you to walk away, to make a choice, whether you're going to continue with allowing this abuse in your life, which is technically doing it to yourself. At that point, you're making that conscious decision to do that by staying in the abusive situation. Or, you know, you're going to remove yourself. And so you really need to look at it from that perspective. This person is choosing to perpetuate these behaviors, but I'm also allowing it by staying there and putting up with it. So make yourself the priority. You are worth it. And I had to hear this more than once from more than one person. Strangely enough, it was men in my life, whether coworker friends, whether friends like this person I'm talking about, referring to, I was talking to this morning. It really comes down to that, making yourself the priority, to love yourself enough to know that you deserve better. It doesn't matter how low that person gets. It's not your responsibility unless you signed up, you know, with a contract to take care of that person. Obviously, like if they're elderly or, you know what I mean, and you're responsible. And there's ways that, you know, depending on the situation, it's a case by case, but you ultimately need to love yourself enough to remove yourself. That's ultimately what it's going to come down to, because you don't deserve to put up with that toxic behavior. You don't deserve it. And that person, you got to think about it from this perspective too. And this also dawned on me in the last 6 months in my journey, where I had to love myself enough to walk away from my twin flame and know that I was deserving of better treatment, even as a friend. And I was not getting, you know, what my needs were being met even in a friendship. And so I have no judgment towards him on that. I've learned to work through that. I love him, and I love him unconditionally. But I had to learn to forgive myself for allowing it, number one. And I had to learn to love myself and let that person go, which was one of the most closest people in my life at that point. Let that person go. This last year, I have been learning, and I think a lot of us in the collective have been, you know, of humanity have been learning this. It is the time to let go of what no longer serves us in our highest good. What we need to step into self-love, step into knowing our worth and knowing what we deserve and what we don't deserve. And then taking those actionable steps to move into showing self-love for yourself, showing what you are worth by removing yourself from those situations that no longer serve you, that no longer are loving you the way you deserve, and showing that out of respect, devotion, attention, love, whatever. And putting yourself in a better situation where you can gain peace again in your life, where, you know, you can begin getting that space alone with yourself to work on yourself and focus on yourself. We are all going through this collectively. I see it with my friends. I see it with my coworkers. I see it with people across the country that are my friends and family members. We're all going through it in different ways, but we're all going through a form of this, of those things coming up, the projections coming at us from these people in our lives that are no longer matching our vibration because we're doing the self-work. We're all being called to do it. Excuse me, I keep bumping my mic. And then when they show themselves, because they will with their behavior, and you're enlightened to it because you've been doing the work on yourself, you're now starting to see those behaviors projected at you, then you have no excuse. You have a choice whether to stay in that situation or remove yourself. Are you going to choose yourself? Are you going to choose to love yourself the way that God loves you unconditionally? Or are you going to choose to not love yourself enough, to believe the lie that you're not worthy, that you're not worth it, that, you're not good enough? What are you going to choose? That's what it comes down to, is that one choice. And I really want to encourage people to really start doing that work. Start making those tough decisions. Start with small ones. It doesn't have to be a huge one to begin with. But if you want to do that, you feel ready for it, go ahead. I do believe there's a part of us, our intuition will tell us what we are ready to handle, what small decisions like that, and to take actionable steps that we're ready to handle on that level, and what we're not ready to handle emotionally. And so start making, those choices. Start taking those actionable steps. Start small if you don't feel comfortable with a large person in your life that you're very attached to, or even financially attached to. But start making some small changes to remove yourself as much as you can from those situations, from that person, or in other ways, wherever it's at, wherever those toxic people are, or environments, or whatever. Start taking actionable steps to begin working towards removing yourself from those situations. Choose self-love. Choose to make yourself the priority, because nobody else is going to make you the priority but yourself. You're responsible for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to be the one to have the courage and to have the faith and to have the self-love and to choose yourself and want better for yourself and take actions to do that. Because you can want it all day long. You can plan in your head all day long things you want to do. But until you start taking those actionable steps physically to remove yourself in some way, or limit your exposure to those toxic people, environments, places, things, you will continue to have these things perpetuated, repeat on repeat on repeat. So if there is nothing else in this podcast that I want you to get, I want you to get that, because you are worth it. You just need to believe it. You need to believe it in your heart, and you need to believe it up here as well. You need to work towards that. Do your self-healing, do some shadow work, whatever you got to do. Start working on the small steps, then you can start taking actionable steps to remove yourself. Whatever you got to do. But I can tell you one thing. It is very difficult. And I speak this from experience, especially with this last year of going through a divorce, and it was finalized in January last year, and in having to remove certain people out of my life that no longer served my higher purpose. It was keeping me in a wounded state. It was keeping me stuck. And you really got to think about that. Look at it that way. What is this doing to me ultimately? Not what will I do if I leave this person, or, how will it affect them negatively? Think about yourself. What is it doing to you to stay stuck in that situation? How are you holding yourself back from what you deserve in having peace, love, joy, all those things that God wants for you? What is it doing to you to choose? You're choosing to stay stuck in that situation. But what is it doing to you ultimately? You're hurting yourself by staying in that situation. You are also, if you think about it this way, and you don't have to be responsible to think about it this way, but I like to think about it this way because it helped me, because I'm such a caring, loving person. I also chose to look at it like this. In a way, not ultimately, but in a way, you're keeping that other person stuck on their healing journey, because they have to choose themselves too. And if you are choosing to stay in a codependent, toxic relationship, whoever it is with, you're choosing, you're making that choice that you're not worthy, that you're not capable of being on your own. You're not, again, you're not worthy. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve peace, blah, 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 blah. You're perpetuating those toxic, subconscious thought patterns and belief systems. And that's what you got to rewire in your brain. You got to rewire that in your subconscious, in your heart. And that comes with doing shadow work. That comes with taking actionable steps to work on yourself and to begin building that confidence and that love in yourself with self-love, taking, boundaries, creating boundaries with people that no longer match your vibration, no longer are working on themselves. They choose not to work on themselves. They choose to stay stuck in these toxic patterns and project at you or project it out, and then you're just a victim of it. So you need to show that self-love to yourself and removing yourself or starting to work on yourself and then remove yourself from those situations. But I can tell you, until you remove yourself physically from those situations, it is, to me, in my experience, it is more difficult to get to a certain level of healing, because you can do a certain level of work on yourself. But if you're living in that situation day to day, every day, with that toxic person, I don't care if they're living across the house in a guest room, like in my situation, until you remove that person from your presence in a large way. In my case, I can't stay completely disconnected from him because we have a daughter together, but I limit my communication with him to only my daughter. And we only talk every few days now about her. So until you choose to remove yourself from these situations, you cannot fully do the healing work that you need to do on your own. And I say that because I've lived through it. I say that because it made a difference for me. And I speak from experience. Do that for yourself. Because I was still very codependent. I didn't realize it. I had believed that I had done a certain level of healing in that regard, which I did. But I was stuck at a certain level. And I didn't realize that until I chose myself and got past my fears of living by myself and not in a relationship for, what has it been? I mean, a year and a half now. So I was scared, and I'm going to be, straight with y'all. And I've told this to a lot of my friends, my close friends. I was scared to live on my own. And as independent as I am, I'm a very independent person. Deep down, I was scared to live on my own because, number one, there has been sexual abuse in my family. And that was a real fear for me with my daughter. And I didn't know if I can trust. It's so prevalent now. You hear about it all the time now with stepdads, with family members. It was a real fear of mine to think about dating again in my mid-40s, overweight, with a single mom with a daughter, going through adolescence. And so it was really scary for me to think about exposing her to other men out there. Can I trust them? Can I trust that they won't abuse her at some point? Because that's what happened to my biological mother. And I don't want to go through that. We want to believe the best in people. And I'm one of those people that, I tend to believe the best in people. And then time and time again, I'm reminded I can't do that. I can't. And I don't want to say I can't do that. I want to rephrase that to say, I need to be also mindful. Yes, I want to believe the best in people, but be cautiously believing the best about them, because people will show you who they are eventually. Eventually, the truth will come out and they'll show themselves in their actions. And you need to be very vigilant to look at those for what they are, not look at them and then, mentally just push aside the red flags that you're seeing. If something doesn't look right, something doesn't feel right, doesn't line up right in their story or whatever, you need to listen to that. You need to dig into it. You need to figure it out. Because those are little signs that your gut is telling you, your intuition's telling you. You need to look at that. And for so long, I had believed I needed to believe the best in people and just ignore their actions and just listen to what they say and how, and then I put on these rose-colored glasses with them where it's like, I believed the illusion. I believed what they were telling me. because I'm that person. I'm a very honest person. I live that way. Whatever I speak, I try to live that way. I try to speak from truth. And not everybody's like that. Everybody is in some kind of level of, healing, and they've got their own patterns that they're doing. And whether it be subconscious or conscious, at some point, I think they are probably conscious about some of the stuff they do. And they just choose to perpetuate it. But I really believe that's who I came here to be. Yes. And so that's why I rephrase that, because I am very open-hearted. I have an open heart chakra. I came into this life to go through those traumas and to heal from them so that I can help walk others through their own healing through my experience and through sharing these stories about others and myself going through that, because we're being called to come to account for our actions now. We cannot move forward as a collective of humanity and move into a better world and have a better world until each of us does our part to do our inner healing and work on ourselves and make those conscious choices to remove toxic people out of our lives, to choose yourself every day, all day, every day. And it's a continual process we learn, we go through every day. And I can tell you it's hard. It's hard choosing yourself all the time. There's still layer upon layer of ways that I'm shown that I'm still not choosing myself. So, there's going to be those layers coming up. You're going to be asked, once you've done a certain level of healing, well, now you got this. That'll come to your conscious mind. They'll be brought up to you, your behaviors, whatever, and how you're not choosing yourself first. So we're always going through the process of that. And I say that not to dishearten anybody. Just know that that's part of the process. There is light at the end of the tunnel, because as you're healing, you're removing those toxic people, places, and things out of your life that no longer match your vibration, no longer resonate with you and your level of healing, because they're not choosing to do that level of healing if it's a person. But you will start to see and attract the people that are reflecting that level of healing eventually into your life. And that's what's happening to me now. I'm now attracting those. I went through a little lull period. So know that there will be a hermit period for yourself if you choose to completely remove people out of your life and live single for a while. Give yourself that space and that time. It is so worth it, and it's very, very important. And work past those fears of being alone and being lonely, because that's what helps you work through those deep trauma wounds of abandonment. No other way are you going to be able to work at a certain level through those wounds other than being by yourself for a period of time. And that is what's really important. And for me, that abandonment wound is so deep with both of my parents feeling abandoned. And that came up in my past life regression I did. And I mean, it's bad. It's very deep. It's very scary. And it came up again for me when I had to take a break this last week from my guy friend. And I just told him, I said, look, I've realized that there's now another level of codependency coming up for me to deal with between you and my relationship with you. And I need to refocus on myself. So I need to take a break from us, for a few days. Let me do some shadow work. Let me dig into this. Let me unearth it. Let me try to work on myself and just give me that space. And he did. He respectfully gave me that space. And I'm very thankful to him for that. And I told him that, because another deep, deep level of fear and wounding came up to be expressed, through crying. And it was a very deep cry. And I just held my inner child. I pictured myself in my mind as I was crying, holding my inner child, my little girl. And I said, you're safe. Nobody's going to leave you. I'm not going to leave you. And yeah, I'm getting emotional because it is hard going through this work. But I can't tell you how much better I felt after I got through that level of healing. And yes, there's more work that needs to be done there, obviously. You can tell by my reaction. But I felt so much better when I worked through that layer. It was like peeling back the onion, that layer of of pain and trauma that was coming up. It was reflecting in how I was, again, over giving attention, time to somebody in my life as in a codependent pattern. And, I thought I had kind of healed myself to a certain level, and here it comes. Another layer of it is coming up to show me where you need to do some more work on this now at this time. And, I know had I not made myself the priority, I was putting it off. I was allowing myself to be making that choice to be distracted with spending time talking and interacting with this person. And he's been very healing for me, by the way. And we were both on a huge healing journey. Like I said, I'm going to have him on my podcast here pretty soon with a few episodes because he's got a lot to share. He's had a lot of amazing things that he's overcome in his life, traumas, deep, bad traumas, addictions and things like that. So anyway, we're both healing each other through our relationship, our friendship. And it's amazing to see that. I love that. I love how, it's healing me. It's causing me to bring up these old wounds and conversations with him and to express it. And then I cry. And when I called him back after taking a few days for myself this last week, I just said, number one, thank you for giving me that space and not being clingy, not, texting me, checking on me, worried about me, giving me the space that I asked and letting me reach back out to you like I asked. I appreciate that. I want to let you know that. And I said, I also want to let you know that you held that space for me. You held space for me to heal. And you were understanding. And you were supportive. And you were praying for me. He told me he prayed for me. From the time he got that message, that last Monday morning, until I reached out to him a few days later, he had been praying very heavily for me. And it helped. It helped me. Helped me greatly. And so having that support and learning how to receive it is something I know that I'm also needing to learn right now, is learning how to receive that love and support. Even if it's just from friends, even if it's from, other loved ones that are on a healing journey as well. For so long, I have been in a way, like I said, I thought I was very independent, but I was independent in some ways, but I wasn't fully independent. And I'm learning to become that more and more. But I thought I was independent enough where I was like, I don't need people. I can walk away at any time. I always created the emotional boundary with them where, I tell them up front, don't expect this, don't expect that. I'm not going to go there with you. I'm not going to have that kind of relationship with you. So this is what to expect. Again, I was controlling these relationships to keep myself safe in my mind. And in doing so, I was cutting myself off from my healing. And I was cutting myself off from moving forward in my life with doing this podcast, with helping others heal, knowing that I could help so many other people this way by being rawly authentic and sharing my story and my journey as I go. And just that one choice of me choosing myself is now helping me share it with you, with my audience, with people that are going through it just like me, or wanting to go through it and don't know how, or don't have the courage to maybe do it on their own, and they're watching this, and it'll help you take that step of faith, take that leap of faith, and choose yourself, because God is choosing you all the time. He loves you unconditionally. You just need to learn how to begin to love yourself unconditionally and put yourself first, because that is so powerful and important. And you can change your entire life by always choosing yourself. And it's not in a sense of being badly selfish. It's a good selfish. We were always raised, I feel like, not we, I mean, just like people that I was around growing up, to believe that that was bad. Always choosing yourself. That it was rude, it was bad, it was inconsiderate, and disrespectful. But it's not. It's needed. Absolutely needed. We need to retrain ourselves to choose ourselves in every situation. How is this benefiting me? Is this benefiting this person? And it has to benefit yourself, number one, before you ask if it's benefiting the other person with the interaction or whatever you're offering. or you're exchanging with other people. Number one, is it benefiting you? If it's not 100% benefiting you, you need to look at that, and you need to create boundaries where needed. So I just wanted to encourage people, and I wanted to share this story with you because it really hit home for me this morning, after, we were talking, and he shared a little bit more about, things that he's endured in past relationships, and even, with family members on his side that he's still going through. And it's really, I just got so inspired. I had to come on here and share about it. And I just want everybody out there to know you are loved. I love you. God loves you unconditionally. Wounds and all, he loves you. And he wants to love you and show you love through you, because he lives within you. And I say he, but it's however you want to believe. God, source, whatever you want to believe in, lives within you. You are a spark of the one true flame. You are a spark from God himself. Created you in his image, created you. So you have the same core, your soul, to love yourself the way he loves you. You just have to find it within you. You have to believe it, and you have to dig it up, and you have to find it within you. And you are worth it. You are worth all that love you never got as a kid or in your life up until now. You are worth it, and you can show it to yourself first. And you should show it to yourself first in your actions with people, places, and things that no longer serve you, and choosing yourself, because you can do it, and you are worth it. And I just want to leave you with that I love you, and God loves you unconditionally, and you are worth it. You are worth everything that you desire, the love, the abundance, everything that you desire. You can have that, and you can have the love, but you got to choose yourself first. All right. I love you guys. I leave you in love and light.